What do you want to be when you grow up?
I have to restart my computer.
Gerber Life is accepting applications for their affordable grow-up plan. The grow-up plan gives your child $10,000 in whole life insurance.
Tomahawk, ribeye, baby. No, I didn't drop it in dirt. Grow up. Smoke it at 225 until it hits 120. Grow up. Smoke it at 225 until it hits 120.
I have to restart my computer.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome. Welcome to what I think I'm calling the Grow Up Plan. I'm Madhav, I'm all of 19 years old, and if you tune in to Saki C's Way with Jasmine weekdays 12 till 2, you probably know me as Mads. As the youngest person here at Bush Radio, when I was offered a weekend slot all to myself, I knew exactly what I wanted to make out of it. I wanted to learn how to be an adult, alongside all of you young folks across Cape Town. For the next 8 weeks, we're going to be figuring out banking and higher education and food and working out together. But today's episode, I'm calling Love, Sex, and BEDROG. So join me as I learn about sex from people who've actually had it. Feel free to engage and ask questions on WhatsApp at 618621065. But first, let's get in the mood with some Beyonce.
I feel like falling in love. I'm in the mood to roll something up. Tonight I'm rolling something. I need some drink in my cup. Hey, I'm in the mood to pour something up. I wanna go missing. I need a prescription. I wanna go higher. Can I sit on top of you? I wanna go where nobody's been. Have you ever had fun like this? We gon' roll up tonight. Black lights, spaceships fly. Unapologetic when we pull up tonight. Roll it up tonight. We getting pulled up tonight. We gon' pull up tonight. See far. At you see stars. At you elevate. At you meet God. I feel like falling in love. I'm in the mood to put something up. 'Cause we gon' roll up tonight. What's in these four walls? You sexy, my love. Don't miss this roll call. As you hear a wood. Show up. Pull up. You Mr. Nasty. I clean it up. Go where nobody's been. Have you ever had fun like this? I wanna go missing. I need a prescription. I wanna go higher. Gonna sit on top of you. We gon' roll up tonight.
It is currently 10 minutes past 3, and you are, of course, tuned in to 89.5 FM. This is Bush Radio, and this is my new show, and I'm calling it so far Growing Up Plan. I'm joined today in the studio with some very special guests. We have Kurt Godinez, all the way from the Philippines, who's going to co-host today's show with me. Kurt, do you have anything to say?
Mabuhay, everyone. My name is Kurt Godinez, and I'm also 20 years old, young and youthful.
Young and youthful, indeed.
Very excited to be here.
Phenomenal.
What did you say your show was called again?
I think I'm calling it Growing Up Plan. I think it was the Grow Up Plan.
I think so, yeah.
What do you think about that? What do you think about the name?
Sounds like growing up needs a little bit of planning.
Okay, so I had a couple of options. I was like, okay, I can be basic and call it adulting. But then I went on Spotify and there are a bunch of podcasts called adulting already. So I didn't want to repeat that. Another thing I was toying around with was ELI 18. Do you know what ELI 5 is, Coach?
I have no clue.
So it's like, it's this Reddit thread. It's this subreddit, which means explain like I'm 5. So you have these people asking these experts these super complicated questions about, physics and how the world works and God knows what. And explain like I'm 5 basically means boil this down to like its core principles and, walk me through what the answer is in very layman's terms. But I think I'm going to stick with the Grow Up Plan. Do you prefer any of the other ones, by the way?
No, I think you're doing perfectly with that name.
Okay, phenomenal. But more importantly, ladies and gentlemen, as we head into our first interview, I'm joined by Taina Teodoro, a 19-year-old activist from Brazil who runs a non-profit that works towards ensuring the youth have access to the sex education that they need. Sem Medo, Fearless, is a Brazilian non-profit launched 2 years ago that promotes comprehensive sex education. In its innovative approach, the organization has an e-learning platform as well as chatbots via Telegram to help children and teenagers educate themselves. Taina, thank you for joining us in the studio today.
Thank you for having me, Madhav.
Do you want to tell everybody how old you are?
Yes, I am 19 years old. I'm young, but I promise I know how to talk about this. I've been an activist for the past 5 years for women, gender, and sexuality. So you can trust me.
So when I was thinking of people to invite onto the show, you know, there are people who have worked in this field for 10, 15 years, experts, teachers, educators. But I really thought that I should have this conversation with somebody our age, you know, somebody who's experiencing the world of sex and love and romance the same way that we are. So Taina, just to start off, give us the talk. You know, give us the talk like you wish every parent in the world would give their child the talk at age 16. Give us the talk you wish you had when you were an adolescent.
Yes. So actually, I feel like it starts even before that. When we talk about the talk, it's as if it only happens once. But it's very important also for the parents listening. For when your child is 6 or 5 years old, you already start with sex education, talking about like no-no zones, stuff, you know, places in their body that teachers cannot touch, for example, and teaching the correct genital terms so they can actually ask for help in any case. But if I'm talking to a teen right now, I guess the very first question I have actually, it's for you, Madhav, so we can help you prepare for the talk.
I thought I was the one doing the interview here,
Taina. So here the tables have turned. When we're talking to teenagers about sex, the truth is they already know some of it. And a lot of it is probably very wrong. And they just make jokes with their teen boys about it. So it's very important for me to start asking you, what do you know about sex?
Oh, that's a great one. No, for sure. I also definitely learned about sex from magazines and the internet before I was able to have that conversation with my teachers or my parents. What do I know about sex? I think I knew at age 15 that sex was, you know, an act of intimacy that a man did with a woman that resulted in babies and pleasure and fun.
Yeah, and that's the exact problem with it because, see, if everyone thinks it's only a man and a woman, then a lot of people are going to be frustrated if they go outside of it. So the other idea I would tell parents to have with their children is asking what they do prefer to start with. Because for me, when my mother came to talk to me about it, I was dying. I was like, Mom, I do not want to hear about condoms coming out of your mouth. But if you give the power to your teenager, it will be less awkward. But first, so STIs or STDs, I think it's very important to teach that there's this misconception that only people who are very out of the box and are with a lot of partners have them, when that's not in fact true. So STIs, they are infections that get passed by sexual intercourse. And what is the difference between an STI and an STD? An STD is basically the form of the disease when it actually shows symptoms. Another thing that's very important is relationships and consent. So talking about the various different types of relationships a person can have. I know I come from Brazil, and Brazil is a country with big age gaps in dating. And that's something to think about when you're talking to your children. Teach them about power dynamics and how that can work in a relationship and who can actually be a great partner for them and what does a healthy relationship look like. And when we talk about consent, it's knowing that it can change. Maybe today I want to kiss you and tomorrow I don't want to see your face. And that's normal. That happens. Sometimes people get the ick. I get it a lot. But it's important to know that both parties should be consenting to what's happening. Whatever that is, it can be as simple as holding hands, honestly. And then the third thing, and that also touches on what you were talking about men and women. It's having this idea that right now when we look at what schools are teaching, they're using these terms, men, women. And the next thing the parents should teach is menstruation. And right now in my own country, we have a very big debate on how to teach it, even at nonprofits for women's empowerment. Because when we teach menstruation in schools and textbooks, it's written women. But let me point out that if your child is a trans guy or maybe a non-binary person, they also do need this talk. So menstruating people out there should have this talk about what happens, and that it's not only the 4 to 7 days you're bleeding, but it's actually a cycle of 28 days. And for the people out there that are menstruating or will someday, it's important to understand that it actually affects your life a lot. I know that for example, my first menstruation, I was 10 years old. I had no idea about what was happening right there. So it's very important to teach about the menstrual products and the different kinds that are available in the market, the ones that are sustainable or not. The other thing, gender and sexuality. So it's important to teach the differences about it and the different kinds of people. You can be bisexual, you can be pansexual, you can be a heterosexual person. Teach your child that it's okay to be any of those. And it's okay for you to change your opinion on what you are throughout your life. Same goes with gender. And then, of course, sex and contraceptives. It's important to teach your child and think with them, okay, if you're going to have sex, what kind of protection are you using? Because there are different types of protections. Is it only for STIs, or is it about not getting pregnant? Those are very different things, and you should think about those. So yes.
Where were you when I was 13 years old, Taina? No, thank you so much for that. That was great. Great.
No, good summaries, I think, of the main points people should be thinking about in this topic. And I love it because when I was younger, literally, you're right. We laugh about it. I laughed about it when I was younger. 5th grade, you had this reproduction class, and I couldn't keep a straight face, and I was laughing with all my buddies about it. And it's only later in life when I took it seriously. But I think everyone definitely benefits from an early, perhaps sensitive conversation.
Phenomenal. I said vagina and penis till I was in 8th grade because I'd read those words, but I hadn't heard what they sounded like. But no, so what are some, I know you've worked in this field for a while, what are some misconceptions that people our age tend to have about sex, about contraceptives, about STDs? Because, I for the longest time thought that STDs could only be transmitted through penis in vagina intercourse. And I know that that's not true. So what's some stuff like that comes up often?
Yes, actually about STIs and STDs, it's the idea that only people who are sleeping around get them. That's not true. I know a lot of teenagers, when they get to the point where they have their first long-term relationship, they decide to stop using condoms because they think they can trust the person and there is no danger. Please keep in mind that there is. You shouldn't trust someone 100% with your own safety. So be mindful of that. Another thing, and this one, it's so big, I've heard it so much from everyone around, is that, if I take the pill, I don't need a condom. And it's what I was talking about contraceptives. There is a difference between not wanting to get pregnant and not wanting to get an STD. For example, I have an implant, which is a contraceptive that a lot of people don't know about, but it's the safest out there. And it's put in your arm. It's basically a bunch of hormones there, and it lasts for 3 years. And I know that I can use that and be safe of getting pregnant, but I can still get an STD or an STI, so I do use condoms. So think of that before you make a decision and think you're being safe when you actually aren't. And then another thing is, when we're talking about menstruation, there is a lot of misconception about tampons. A lot. Even this week, I went shopping with my friend and she told me she couldn't buy tampons because her mother didn't allow her to. So if you're listening out there, tampons do not take out your virginity. So it's okay. You can wear them. Go to the beach when you're menstruating and be happy. Another thing is, and this is very important, the pull-out method works. It doesn't. Please don't do that. Please do not do that. And the last thing I wrote here, it's about virginity and what it is. I feel like maybe that's the biggest misconception I ever see in sex education. I feel like virginity right now is a very big social construct. We don't really think about people with penises and what is their losing the virginity. But then we think about women and we think about the hymen. And the truth is, if you have ridden horses, for example, for a long time, then you're not a virgin anymore. How does that work? So those are some that I thought about that always make me laugh in shock.
No, thank you so much. That was great, Taina. We are running out of time, so I'm going to have to ask you any final words you want to leave our audience with.
Yes. Sem Medo is in Portuguese, so unfortunately, if you do not speak it, you can usually use our platform, but search out there for resources that help you. I know that there is a website called Wonder where you can also find similar small courses about these topics. Of course, check also your Plan International and other organizations out there. Just know that there are people you can ask for help that are not your parents if you don't feel comfortable with them.
That was great. Thank you so much, Taina.
Yeah, thank you, Taina.
We're going to go into a little music break right now with Gnarls Barkley, Crazy, and we will be back with another super exciting interview.
I remember when I lost my mind. There was something so pleasant about that place. Even your emotions have an echo in so much space. And when you're out there without care, yeah, I was out of touch. But it wasn't because I didn't know enough. I just knew too much.
Like I needed to connect with my Savior.
So I watched General Conference.
I listened to the speakers, and it felt like God was speaking directly to me. I felt a sense of comfort.
There was peace, a feeling of hope, and in my heart I felt joy.
Connect with Christ and listen to General Conference this Sunday at 5:30 p.m.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is 25 minutes past 3. I'm joined today in the studio with Kurt Carinas, of course, and Taina, who decided to stay back after our interview to continue contributing to this conversation. I'm currently going to call our next interview. But Kurt, what did you think about everything we've learned from Taina?
I think there was a lot to get from that. But one thing I took in particular was the way in which it was being discussed. Mm-hmm. You use the right words and you use it unapologetically. We call it for what it is, the penis, the vagina, the hymen, different things that have different names in different cultures. But I think it pays off to have a common language, and that language would be probably scientific. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
100%. And we're joined today by somebody who's going to build on that. So sex is important, but for most people, relationships are so much more. It's about the comfort you were talking about, Kurt. And our next guest has worked in psychotherapy in India for the past 10 years. And she's here to talk to us about how young people can better handle their emotions regarding love and relationships. Dr. Priya, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Madhav. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Just to start off, what are some common concerns that young people bring up to you regarding love and relationships?
So I work a lot with the youth, and, you know, some of the common things that most of them I see talk about these days are heartbreaks and how, you know, they were not able to identify the red flags, and how they were being abused emotionally, but they, you know, probably were not even aware of. And then suddenly when it all came up, it was, you know, so difficult. So yeah, that's very largely what I see, you know, in my practice.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. But just wanted to get your perspective on an issue that people discuss quite often, which is is there a right age to have your first relationship? Like, what are some things people should consider in terms of their maturity levels, or, you know, because I see 5th graders saying that they have boyfriends and girlfriends, and I see 8th graders saying that they have sex, and I just wanted to understand what your perspective on that was.
You know, Madhav, even though we say that age is just a number and all of that, but then I think cognitive maturity also comes with age, right? So, of course, it all looks very glamorous and all, but then one should wait at least till mid or late teens, right? Because that's when you can make an informed choice. That's when you are more aware of your emotions and also more aware of how, you know, other people function. Because when we get into a relationship, when we're not even emotionally or cognitively in that space, we definitely end up making wrong choices, right? And wrong choices would mean more heartbreaks and more emotional setbacks.
Dr. Priya, I think I relate with that.
Yeah.
Having my first relationship at 18, 19, probably a later age than most. How do you best support, though, your friend who goes through love issues, maybe breakups even?
I think, you know, being validating and empathic towards them is the first step, right? Giving them that space where you just contain them, holding space for them is something important. Because, you know, sometimes when our friends come to us with heartbreaks, we quickly want to give solutions, right? That, oh, why did you do this? Oh, but then, you know, it was always evident. But we need to understand that they are going through this rough patch, okay? So quickly jumping on to giving solutions or trying to pull them out of that relationship is not going to help. Give them that space, allow them to make their decision, and just be there for them. You know, that's, I think, a big support that you can, you know, give. That's something big that you can do.
I'm also curious to understand where you think, Dr. Priya, teachers and educators, and also like parents come into this entire situation. Because, you know, of course, we can be there for our friends and we can support each other through emotions, etc., etc. But oftentimes when a 15-year-old goes through a breakup, the first person they go to is another 15-year-old who's often not equipped emotionally to deal with stuff like that. So just your perspective on, you know, what the parents' role is, what the elder siblings' role is, what the teacher's role is.
That's a great question, Madhav. So, see, a lot of times, you know, parents and teachers become very quick to judge, you know. They start judging, they become angry, and they, reprimand the adolescent for doing something which is, according to them, not right for their age. But then they forget that, you know, when we are teenagers and when we are adolescents, emotion in that space a little excited way too soon. So parents and teachers need to be non-judgmental. They, you know, just like friends, they also need to hold space, and they need to support the child or the adolescent through that phase rather than, you know, reprimanding them or becoming very strict or judgmental. Because I've seen parents going to extents where, you know, they take away the phone and like make the person block their partner and all of that, which is not helpful. That, you know, you're just making it look like a crime, and it is not a crime, right? So I think the biggest thing that parents and teachers can do is be open to discussions. Because if you're not open, your child is not going to come to you. Your child is going to go to another 15-year-old who will have the same level of maturity. So be open to discussions and be judgmental. Listen to them.
I think it's really important that you mentioned about the parents and their importance. When I was younger, I remember I asked a question to a therapist, and I think everyone should hear the answer. A lot of the times when we are growing up, we replicate the love that we are seeing. So what should a teenager do if, for example, their parents, the relationship they have, isn't exactly healthy? How can you leave those patterns that occur in your family? Mine, for example, every single couple is divorced. And I knew from a young age that I didn't want that for me. So what would you say to a person that also has that situation?
I think, the first thing is being cognizant of those patterns, because a lot of times we are not even aware that we are replicating those patterns. We might think that I do not want to replicate it, and this is not how I want my relationship to look like. But then unconsciously we do end up repeating those patterns. So that's where, probably taking an expert's help comes into the picture, because that's where you can be more cognizant and aware and realize those patterns, understand how you might be, mimicking or repeating some of those patterns. So I think, that will require a little bit more of intense work, because even though there are times when we are aware of those patterns, we really don't know how else to behave, right? Because that's the template we carry. So taking an expert's help, if really needed, should be of great help.
Thank you so much. And I think just talking about your emotions in general across the world is something that is, discouraged in certain settings, especially when people and families come from socioeconomically disadvantaged communities, like I'm sure many of our listeners are hearing in from today. So I think, there's organizations in South Africa like FAMSA, which is Families and Marriages for South Africa, which give heavily discounted or even free counseling services to people, to couples, to parents, etc., etc. So I think it is important to, allow yourself or allow your family access to these resources when you need them. Dr. Priya, what insights have you gained over your 10-year career that you wish you had yourself when you were 18 and just beginning to navigate the world of love and relationships? Like, can you boil down all the wisdom you've gotten over the past 10 years into like a couple of sentences of guidance?
Yeah, sure. So I think the biggest learning that I've had over the past 10 years is being able to identify red flags, being aware of what emotional abuse or narcissistic abuse looks like, because it's all so subtle and absolutely invisible, right? So I think, when I was a teenager, I think it would have been helpful had I been more aware of, these things, emotional abuse, gaslighting, because it just doesn't look really like anything, but it is a lot. It can be very damaging, and it can be a big red flag which we can't even see. So yeah, that I think would have helped a lot.
No, that is great. You should have seen Kurt.
Man.
You should have seen Kurt in the studio. He was clicking his fingers, clapping along. No, that was great. Thank you so much, Dr. Priya. Any last words you want to leave our listeners with before we carry on with other conversations we have scheduled for today?
I think just, wait, observe, allow yourself to be who you are. You don't have to pretend to be somebody else just in order to be accepted. And listen to your gut. Allow your gut to speak to you and connect with yourself before you are able to connect with the other person.
That's beautiful. Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Priya. I love the connect with yourself before you can connect with others. Thank you for joining us, and I hope to see you soon. Bye, Dr. Priya.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.
What did you guys think?
Yo. She said a lot of things. A lot to digest there. But I think recurring patterns and definitely seeking flags, or maybe seeing the flags for what they truly are, those two things are really important.
What is your red flag? What are your biggest red flags?
My red flag.
Your biggest red flags in a relationship or when you're looking for a partner. And then you can supplement that with green flags as well. You don't want to balance out the negativity with some love.
Yeah,
with some love.
I think one of the difficulties at our age in finding love would be that we're also trying to find ourselves, right? That's exactly what Dr. Priya was talking about in the end. But I think patience is really important, and some people do not have patience with themselves and with others. And I think love can often be framed as a very passionate thing, perhaps an aggressive thing, a youthful thing. But I think it's a calm process. If love isn't calm, at least for me, I want to step back a little from that and assess the situation.
Interesting. What about some green flags?
I'm a sucker for someone who does art, who's creative. I
love that.
Yeah. in an essence, perhaps people who express and are open about communication.
Mm-hmm.
Those are green flags for me.
That's really cool. Taina, what about you? What are some red flags that you look out for?
Oh, I think, okay, we have a lot of stuff going on. We are young, maybe going to college, maybe having a work. So I feel like the first red flag that I always try to notice is how well does the person prioritize? Because I feel like I have a lot of stuff happening, but if I really like you, I'll give you my time for sure, anytime.
Yeah, this is some deep conversation.
Yo, I'm already, I don't prioritize that well. I'm done.
I was expecting you all to say like,
I won't consider you then. It's okay.
I was expecting you all to be like, oh, if somebody's like shorter than 6 foot. That's
well, that's you.
That you. Oh no, Taina. Okay, all shorter than 6 foot tall men, please. Taina is
I'm joking.
unavailable.
I'm 5'5". I cannot ask for much.
And I'm 5'8".
Oh
Y'all,
no.
small kings, y'all rock.
That is phenomenal. All right, we're going to go into a small music break right now. And when we come back, we're going to do a segment which I'm calling Ask an Auntie. And we have a very special guest who's joining us who happens to be an auntie, but also be my auntie. Who's going to be answering some questions we've gotten over WhatsApp. Again, feel free to engage with us. Write to us on WhatsApp at 618621065. That's 618621065. And I'm going to be leaving you with one of my favorite songs, which is Pursuit of Happiness by Kid Cudi.
Crush a bit, little bit, roll it up, take a hit, feeling lit, feeling right, 2 a.m. summer night, I don't care, hand on the wheel, driving drunk, I'm doing my thing, rolling the mid beside him now, living my life, getting out dreams, people told me slow my roll, I'm screaming out that I'ma do just what I want, looking ahead, no turning back, if I fall, if I die, know I lived it to the fullest, if I fall, if I die, know I lived and missed some bullets. I'm on the pursuit of happiness, and I know everything that shine ain't always gonna be gold. I'll be fine once I get it. I'll be good. I'm on the pursuit of happiness, and I know everything that shine ain't always gonna be gold. I'll be fine once I get it. I'll be good. Tell me what you know about dreaming, dreaming. You don't really know about nothing, nothing. Tell me what you know about the night terrors every night. 5 a.m. cold sweats waking up to the sky. Tell me what you know about dreams, dreams. Tell me what you know about night terrors, nothing. You don't really care about the trials of tomorrow. Rather lay awake in the bed full of sorrow. I'm on the pursuit of happiness, and I know everything that shine ain't always gonna be gold. I'll be fine once I get it. I'll be good. I'm on the pursuit of happiness, and I know everything that shine ain't always gonna be gold. I'll be fine once I get it. I'll be good. I'm on the pursuit of happiness. I know everything that's shining always gold. I'll be fine once I get it. I'll be good. so much, you smoke so much.
Push Radio. The mother of all community radio in Africa. 89.5 FM.
I'd been feeling like I needed more purpose, more guidance, like I needed to connect with my savior.
So I watched General Conference.
I listened to the speakers, and it felt like God was speaking directly to me. I felt a sense of comfort.
There was peace, a feeling of hope, and in my heart I felt joy.
Connect with Christ and listen to General Conference this Sunday at 5:30 p.m.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It is 44 minutes past 3. That's 16 minutes to 4. You are tuned in to Bush Radio 89.5 FM. I'm Madhav Prakash. I'm joined in studio, of course, today by Kurt Godinez and Taina Teodoro, who is still here for some reason.
It's an interesting conversation.
We appreciate your presence. So we're going to start our next interview in just a minute. You are, of course, listening to what I'm calling the Grow Up Plan. Still open to name suggestions, though, if somebody wants to WhatsApp in at, what is our WhatsApp number? It's 618621065. Do any of you want to tell us about your first relationships?
Do you want to?
Turning the glasses down in the table.
Do I? My first relationship, I was 17. Was I 16? I think I was 16. I was 16. My partner is somebody I'm still in touch with. They're a beautiful, beautiful person. Very smart. I look up to them. Currently in university. And we broke it off because they were going to college and it was going to be long distance and we didn't think that was something that could work out. Anyways, it is time for our next interview. Let me just call our next guest. While I'm doing that, does anybody want to share their experiences?
I've only done long distance, so that was a hit.
You've only done long distance?
I have. In my defense, there are no suitable men in my city.
Very fair, very fair. All right. It is 45 minutes past 3. This is the last segment of the day. Thank you for engaging with us on WhatsApp and sending in your questions. And we have a very special person joining us by telephone today to answer them anonymously on air. Gunjan Sharma has extensive experience in love, sex, and BEDROG. She's often called India's auntie, and people from across the world ask her for advice on their situationships and romances. So excited she's joining us today. Auntie, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you in your lovely, absolutely gorgeous voice. I'm right here from India, and a pleasure to be on your show, Madhav Prakash.
Thank you so much. A little secret for all our listeners. Even though she is, the nation's auntie, she also happens to be my auntie. Gunjan is my father's younger brother's wife, and she's been someone I've always... So complicated. Lots of familial relationships. But we've actually had a bunch of people write into us with questions for you. And if you're ready, I'm just going to throw them at you, and you can respond in like 60 seconds each.
Sure. Should we go one by one, or are they all coming in one go? No. And I have to make some quick notes?
I think we're going to go one by one. All right. So this person says...
That's great. That is great.
This person says, I'm getting mixed signals from this girl I think is cute. She flutters her eyes at me, but then won't reply to my texts for days. What can I do about it?
Well, just because she's fluttering her eyes at you and giving you what you think are mixed signals, and they might maybe mixed signals as well, you could always do a couple of things. One is, of course, not take them. Don't think that what you think is actually happening. So you may always want to ask her. You may want to think about discussing it with her and say, I think that I like you, and what do you think about it? Should we think about a friendship? You could always make a move which is very simple and sweet, non-threatening, and try something like that. If she agrees, then nothing like it. And if she says you got it all wrong, you just be a good gentleman or a gentle girl and just back off and say, okay, I got it wrong, but no harm in being friends, and end the story there. All I would say is that just because somebody's fluttering her eyelashes at you and you think she's giving you the come-ons may well not be the case. And on the other hand, it may well be the case. So no harm in asking. Either ways, you get to know you get love or you get a friend. So winning always.
Thank you, Madhav's auntie.
Madhav's auntie.
And this is the next question for you. The man I have been seeing for a while is 6 years older than me, and all my friends judge me for our relationship. Am I wrong to love him?
Okay. And how, may I know how old you are? Do we have that information?
I don't think we do, but let's say just because we're talking primarily to 18 to 21 year olds today, let's focus on that age group.
Okay. So, if I was to take the lowest common denominator, which is 18, and then you're saying he's 6 years elder to you. So if my mathematics is right, and help me there, Madhav, he is 24.
I believe that is right. I believe that is right.
Yes, that's not so bad.
Look at you go, Auntie.
Actually, the truth of the matter is that in a relationship which has a few years apart, and I know for young people that's a very hard place to be in, because all of you, have relationships and situationships very close to each other in age, so to say. But I would just say, as long as the power is not tilted in one person's direction, that he is not making you do things or say things or behave in ways which is alien to your real self, to your natural self, it seems okay. And as long as the person is not making you do stuff which you are unhappy about, or converting you into a person which you actually are not, then it seems okay. But yes, if I would say that we have alarm bells if the relationship is over 10 years, because the power structure changes hugely, and especially if it's a man-woman relationship. So far so good. So tell your friends that things are okay between the two of you, but between you and him, do keep the power very equal. Keep an eye and an ear to the relationship, so that you know that he's not making you a different person from what you actually are. And love is a very big deal, isn't it?
It is a big
enjoy the
deal
love
indeed.
times. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And
enjoy your love.
Enjoy your love indeed. And I just wanted to supplement that with the fact that, as you get younger, these age gaps matter more. Like a relationship between a 40 and a 45-year-old is not the same as a relationship between a 15 and a 20-year-old. Because when people are developing cognitively at these young ages, they're learning more in school, they're having more exposure, and you grow a lot faster. So that's just something to keep in your mind as well.
Absolutely, Madhav. Now that you've mentioned it, then I'm sort of drawn to mention that, in patriarchal countries like ours and yours, where you are sitting right now, this whole thing about the man being older to the woman is considered to be a very big value, big virtue, and we know the theory behind it, that a woman should always look up to an older man, etc., etc. But we want to debunk that. That there's no looking up to. A person is worthy of being looked up to for the kind of person they are, not how old they are. So just keep that in mind.
Thank you so much, Auntie Gunjan.
Yeah,
For the next question.
Okay.
I had sex without wearing a condom.
You have to speak a little louder. Somebody had sex with somebody.
Somebody had sex with somebody indeed.
So speak a little louder, my friend. I can't hear you so good.
Me better now?
No, not at all.
No?
Madhav, you may have to.
Okay, I'm going to read this question out. Can you hear me fine?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. This person says, I had sex without wearing a condom. How can I know if I caught something? Is there anything I can do about it now?
How long back is that now?
I'm sorry. I don't have these contextual.
We don't know that.
No, we do not.
Yes, I'm sorry. So if it's more than a week, then it has little meaning, as we know. And so what's happened has happened, and don't beat yourself over it. It's okay. Sometimes we get into situations which are out of control, or some which we don't want to control. Not a very smart thing to do, but nonetheless, this is where we are. If you're okay, that's great. Right now, there's not much that you can do if more than 7 to 10 days have passed. If they haven't, then you may want to rush and look at a PEP, if that's possible for you, wherever you are from. And if that's not the case, then maybe in another, I don't know what the final protocol in South Africa is for testing for hepatitis, HIV, STD, and if you're a woman, then of course for a pregnancy. For a pregnancy test, you may just want to wait for 10 days and just do a home pregnancy test. The gonadotropins will get formed, and you can see the results of that in 10 days. But you are not a woman, or you don't identify as female, and you're looking at infection and sickness, then you will have to wait the tide for what the protocol is in the country, and then get a test for STD, hepatitis, and HIV.
Thank you, Auntie Gunjan. I'm back. Kurt's back.
Okay, now you're back. Yeah. Next time, please don't even think about sex without a condom.
I know.
With a condom.
It's good to know, though, that
as simple as that. Yeah.
There's a lot of steps. There's a lot of steps, but it is definitely there. Why do some people like to string other people along, even though they know that they are not interested in that person? But they know
they're really a bunch of wretched people, not fair people.
Yeah.
That's why, because they're not nice. That's one reason. And because I think it's, if I may say so, kind of casually, it's a major power kick to have people string along, to have people waiting for you to respond, to have people who you know you can call at any time, at any hour, maybe a booty call, maybe just a flirtation, maybe something. So it's a major power thing. So if somebody is doing that to you and you know that, I mean, that person is really not worth your time and effort, because they are in it for something quite different. And in the meantime, you have a crush, or you're interested sexually, or you have even fallen in love or infatuated with that person. So yeah, I think it's just a whole power thing. So don't bother with people like that. They are really not worth it.
Yeah, and there are a lot of them out there as well.
Yes, absolutely. You know, I am a big fan of flirting, and I think flirting is fun, but the rules have to be the same for everybody. You can't be in it for just flirting and just keeping it cognitive and keeping it like the whole chase thing. And in the meantime, somebody else is developing different kind of emotions. So it has to be fair play from both sides. So you're stringing somebody along, and then they don't know about it, and then you have a couple of people on the side. That's not fair. That's really not nice either.
Yeah, being honest is such a virtue.
It is a bit, no doubt about it, because you just want to, it makes you feel so good that, I can get this, I can get that, I can get them, they can, so you feel so good about it. It makes you feel very validated, very worthwhile. Suddenly you are in business, but it's not quite fair when it happens to you, is it? So I would say just to keep that in mind.
Thanks, Auntie. Yep. And for the last question, which we have 25 seconds for, does sex have to be an intimate thing between two partners? I have multiple sexual encounters and often feel like it's just bodily contact and pleasure.
Fine, go ahead. I mean, if you know what you're doing it for, and your partner knows what you're doing it for, and you're not promising anything which is outstanding, I shall marry you, we shall run away to the sunset, all that rubbish is not happening, and you know you're doing it for pleasure and for discovering your own body and for having fun, and your other partner also knows about it, your other partners also know about it. It's okay. Pursue pleasure. I'm all for it. Do it safely.
We are running out of time, but thank you so much for joining us today, Auntie, and I will see you back in New Delhi in just a couple of months. Good night then.
Yes, before you go away to Stanford.
Before I go away to Stanford.
How can I mistake that? My super sweet nephew is going to Stanford. What else Stanford?
Don't embarrass me on national radio, Auntie. All right. Good night then.
Everybody have a lovely time, and thank you for having me over. Lots of love to all of you guys.
You as well.
India.
Cheers. We are very much running out of time. Thank you everybody for joining us today. Next up, we do have the news, followed by some dope tunes to accompany you to wherever you may be driving this sunny Saturday evening. I've been doing this for a couple of weeks, so I low-key have a sign-off. But Kurt and Taina, do you all want to sign off?
Mabuhay. Maraming salamat. Kurt Godinez here from the Philippines.
Ciao, Taina from Brazil.
Let's go. Thank you so much. I'm going to be leaving y'all with Nicki Minaj, Starships, the clean version, of course.
Let's go to the beach, let's go get a wave. They say what they gonna say. Have a drink, clink, found a Bud Light. Bad like me, it's hard to come by. The Patron, let's go get it down. The sound, yes, I'm in the zone. Is it 2, 3? Leave a good tip. I'ma blow all of my money and don't get too. I'm on the floor. I love to dance, so give me more, till I can't stand. Get on the floor, like it's your last chance. If you want more, then here I am. Starships were meant to fly. Hands up and touch the sky.
Mother, Community Radio in Africa, 89.5 FM.